In this video, I'll be showing you how to make a new Rainbow Loom ice skate charm. So what you will need is one loom, and you want to have it set up so that the pins are staggered and they are not in line with one another, and they make a V shape at the end of the loom. You want to have the arrows facing away from you, and you will need 37 bands of whichever color you're choosing to make your skate. I have white. And then I also have 2 broken bands, which I'm going to be using for the laces. And then also you'll need a paper clip for the blade. So we're going to start out by making the toe of the skate. And you're going to be starting out on this center pin. And for all of the bands in the toe, we're going to be taking one single band and doubling it. So you want to put it on your hook, wrap it around a second time so that it's doubled. And then this placement is going to go from the center pin up to the top row. So you want to just place that on. And I'm going to take another band here, and I'm going to double it. And now this is going to go from that center pin and down to the bottom row. And next I'm going to take another band and again double it, and this time I'm going from that center pin straight forward. I'm going to double the next band, go to this top row and again move it straight forward. I'm going to repeat that for this bottom row. And now back to the center once again. I'm doubling the band and going forward. And now back to the top row. This time I'm going to go in diagonally to the center, doubling this band, just moving it into the center. And then on the bottom row I'm going to stay straight, so I'm going to double that band and just move it straight forward. And now I'm going to place the cap bands. So starting here on the pin where we just left off, I want to put a band that is wrapped around 4 times. So I'm going to put it on my hook for 1 time, wrap it around again for 2 bands, again for 3 bands, and then 1 more time for 4. And I'm going to just place this right on the top of the pin. And then I'm going to do the same thing for this center pin. I want to take a band and put it on my hook for 1 time, wrap it again for 2 bands, again for 3, and then 1 more time for 4 bands, and put it right here in the center. If you find that your bands are on the tighter side and you're having a hard time to wrap them around 4 times, you can do it just 3 times if it's a struggle. And then I want 2 more bands. The first one is going to stretch diagonally from this top row all the way down to the bottom row, and I'm going to double this band so it has 2 bands on the hook. Start at the top and stretch it all the way down to the bottom. And now I'm going to cross that with this row, making an X for another cap band to go from this top pin all the way down to the bottom. So I'm putting it on my hook and doubling it, and then I'm going to start at the top and stretch it all the way down diagonally to the bottom. So that is all the bands that we need for the toe. Now I'm going to just move up a little bit and start the boot part. And what I'm going to do for most of these bands in the boot part is I'm actually going to be taking 2 bands at once. So I'm not doubling a single band, I'm using 2 bands for all of this. So I'm going to go from this top row and stretch it diagonally into the center. And now I'm going to work my way up these 2 rows. I'm only going to be working with these 2 rows. So I'll start at the top row and I'll move it straight up. Again, I'm using 2 bands. And I'm going to go up the length of 4 pins. So that was the first one. Going to go up again and go up to the next. And that was our 3rd set of bands. And now one more time. So now we've gone the length of 4 pins, and we want to do the same thing with the center row. We're going to be using 2 bands at once, and we're just going to go up the length of 4 pins. So that's 1, and then again is 2, and then up again for 3, and then one more time for 4. And now for the last band at the top here, I'm going to just take 1 single band and double it. So I'm not using 2 separate bands, it's just 1 band that's getting doubled, and it's going to go from this top row and in to the center. And then I have to place my cap bands. So my cap bands are going to run from this center pin. I'll put my first one down here at the bottom, and it's going to go up and diagonally to the right to this top pin, and I'm going to triple this band. So I have it on my hook once, wrap it around a second time, and then another time so that it's tripled. I'm going to go from this top pin and stretch down and diagonally to that center row. And I'm going to move to this pin above. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to triple this band, and it's going to come down to the center. So 3 bands on there. Again, if your bands are really tight and you're having a hard time to get it to go 3 times, you can just double these. Just trying to make the ice skate look nice and tight when it's done. Now again, I'm going up to the next row. Again, I'm tripling this band. And it's going to go on that top pin and stretch down to that center row. And now finally, I am at the top here. I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to triple this band, and then from here it's going to come down and diagonally to that center row. And then finally at the very top here, I want to put a cap band. So I want to put 4 bands on here. So I'm going to again put it on my hook and wrap it around so it's doubled. Again, so it's tripled, and then one more time. And now I'm going to place this on the top. And then what I want to do is turn my loom completely around so that now the arrows are facing towards me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start looming the toe first, because I'm going to need to take this toe off and attach it to the boot. So I will start on this top row, and you can see we have the cap band that we put here. Remember, we quadrupled this band, so it should look like 4 bands. And then we have the bottom 2. So I'm just going to reach down through and grab these bottom 2 bands. Hold this cap band so it doesn't come off. pull them up through the middle and move them to the pin above. And again, I'm going to reach down through, grab these bottom 2 bands, pull them out and move them forward. And then from here, I'm reaching down through the center, pushing back on all of these upper bands, grab these bottom 2, and then move them diagonally into the center. And now I'm going to move to this center pin. I have that cap band on top that was quadrupled, so there's 4 of those. And then there should be 2 bands underneath that are going in this direction to the bottom row. So I want to just take those 2 bands that are underneath the top 4. I'm going to get these 2 bands. Again, I can hold this cap band in place with my thumb, move them down to that bottom row. And now I'm going to stay on this pin and reach down through again. I should have 2 bands left at the bottom, and they're going to move straight forward to the center. And now from the center pin, again, I'm going to reach down through the middle. I should again have 2 bands. I'm going to pull forward. And now for this bottom row, I'm going to reach down through all the bands on the top. Just grab these bottom 2 bands, pull them up through the center and move forward. And again, reach down through this middle, grab these bottom 2 bands and move them into the center. And now I'm going to take 1 more band and I'm going to work at this very top pin. I'm going to put my hook down through the center and move it out to the side. I'm going to grab this last white band and I'm going to move it up through the middle. I'm going to get this loose end back on my hook so I have the 2 ends, and pull one through the other and then pull that tight. Make a slip knot so it's not going to come apart. And now I can carefully remove this toe portion of the skate from the loom. So I'm just going to release these. And then this is the toe of the skate. It has this loose end. We'll take care of that later. It shouldn't be loose because it's knotted, but we're going to address that later. So what we're going to do then is attach it to the rest of the skate. So you should have 2 areas where we have the cap bands. And so you can see this is one. So I'm going to attach this to this second pin up on the bottom row. So there should be 4 bands because we quadrupled it. So make sure they all get on. And then you have this other cap band where we had 2 rows meet into one. So this was just one single row. That's going to be at the top. And you have this other row where the 2 came together. Reach down through here. Again, there should be 4 bands. And just place this on the top of that bottom pin. So this is what it's going to look like when it's on the loom. And now we can start working on the boot. So we'll start at the bottom here in the center row. We have the cap band on the top, and then the next set of bands is going diagonally to that bottom row. So we want to take those first. So if you reach down through the center, push back on these cap bands and grab the top 2 bands, get them off the pin and move them to that bottom row. Now again, reach down through this same pin. There should be 2 more bands left at the bottom. take those and move them to the pin straight forward. And now I'll just work my way up this center row. So I'm reaching down inside, pushing back on the cap band, grabbing those bottom 2 bands and pulling them forward. Just going to keep repeating that, moving these bands right up to the next pin. And now I'll move to this bottom row of pins and do the same thing. Now for these pins, they're going to be very full because we have this toe that we're attaching. So you're going to just reach down through all of the bands so you get to the bottom here. You want to push back on all of them except the bottom 2. It's a little hard to grab them. And then you're going to pull them up through. It's going to be tight. And move it to the pin to the right. And then again, I'm going to be reaching down through here and grabbing just the bottom 2 bands. Pull that up through. Again, it's going to be tight. And move it to the pin above. And if you feel like it's not all the way loose, what you can do is put your hook inside and then just trace around this pin and it will loosen up that band. And now I'm just going to work my way up to the top. These should be much easier to do. Grab those bottom 2 and move them forward. And then do the same thing again. Push back on the cap band. Grab those bottom 2 and move them forward. And then finally from this bottom row, I'm going to move this last band, get it out from the middle, and move it to that center pin. And now you are going to need one more band that I actually didn't account for when I said that you needed 37 total. So you can keep the same color or you can choose any color you want. I'll just keep the white. So if you're going to keep it the same color, you'll need 38 bands. And this is just to tie this off at the end so that it doesn't come apart. So I'm going to reach down through the center and poke my hook out to the side. Make sure it goes through all of those bands. There are a lot on that pin. I'm going to grab this band and just pull it up through, doing that same thing we did with the end of the toe, putting that band back on and then looping one through the other and then pulling it tightly. And so now we're ready to take the skate off of the loom. So I'm just going to release this one up here since it's above. And then I'm going to reach down through from this top pin and I'm just going to carefully pull it down and release it from the loom. And then here's what it looks like. You can move these around. You can actually take your hook out. So this should be tight. Make sure this is extra tight so it's not going to come apart. And you can move these around a little bit to even it out. And then we have this loose band on the toe. So what we're going to do with that is flip to the back side. Take your hook and reach down through some of these center bands and grab this loose end here, this loop, and just pull it through. And then what you can also do is take a clip, and I have an S clip here, and what I'm going to do is to hook it around this band, this loose toe band, It shouldn't come apart if you pulled it tight enough, but over time it could work its way loose. So I'm just going to secure that in place, and then also I'll put the other end through some of these bands. That way I know that it won't come apart over time. And now I'm going to add the blade of the skate. So for this I have a paper clip, and I'm just going to slide this in carefully through these bands. Make sure it goes all the way through. And you want it so it's not visible through the bands. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is use these red and blue bands that are broken. I'm going to put them through for the laces. So I'm going to start where the laces would go on the skate. I'm just going to put my hook through. I'm going to grab the red band here, and I'll hold that broken end in my fingers so I can have this loop part through the hook, and then just pull it through, and I will let go the one side, and then I'm just going to go above and just pull it through like laces. So I want to go up, and then I'll go on the other side here and grab the other loose end of the lace and pull it through. And now I'll do the same thing for blue. I'm going to go through here and grab that, hold that broken end in my fingers. I'm going to pull that through and let go of one of the sides so it can come all the way through. And then I'll just get one end through to one side, go to the other side here and get the other blue band. And so now I've put them through, and now what I'm going to do is just take these red and blue from either side. I'm just going to tie it off. Make sure they both go through the loop, which is easier said than done. And then here I have my skate. And so now I'm all set for the Winter Olympics. And then also I'll show another skate I made using some different color blue bands, and I have white for the lace. So really you can do any color you want. I just thought it would be neat to make red, white, and blue for the USA, since the Olympics is right around the corner. So hopefully you've enjoyed my ice skate tutorial, and you can feel free to leave me comments on YouTube or Facebook, or send me some pictures. I'd love to see your creations. Thanks!